Yo, what's going on everybody? Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be ranking the MCU Phase 2 movies from the worst to the best, so let's get right into it. Hello everybody, my name is Dominic from the channel Dominic Talks Movies, and if you love to talk about movies just like I do, you're definitely going to love my channel and you should definitely consider hitting that subscribe button because I post movie reviews, reactions, and rankings, all that sort of stuff multiple times a week, so you're not going to want to miss any of those videos and should hit that post notification bell. You can unsubscribe at any time if you want to, but I highly recommend you stay subscribed for awesome videos multiple times per week. As I said before, I'm going to be ranking the MCU Phase 2 movies from the worst to the best, and this might be a controversial ranking because I have a pretty different MCU taste to a lot of people, I think, so this might come as a little bit of a surprise to you guys. But yeah, and also for some of those people out there that think that you might be able to predict my full MCU ranking based on my MCU phase rankings, you would be wrong because I already have changed what my thoughts are on the MCU phase 1, and I haven't even posted my MCU phase 2 ranking yet, clearly, as I am recording this video right now, so yeah, this ranking will change definitely over time even after this video is posted, so my full MCU ranking will still be a surprise, but I still wanted to make these shorter little videos for you guys. But with that being said, and without further ado, let's get right into the ranking. Unfortunately, coming in last place, I have Iron Man 3. This is one that I've never really been a huge fan of. I've rewatched this movie, I think, 2 times, so I've seen it a total of 3 times. And it hasn't really improved at all in any of those watches. It hasn't gotten any worse for sure, but it definitely hasn't gotten any better, and I never really liked this movie that much to start. I think it is a very, very average movie. Even in a universe filled with movies that aren't necessarily some of the best of all time, Iron Man 3 still comes off as a pretty mediocre movie. The big argument here for a lot of people why it might be better than the other 2 Iron Man movies is because it is written and directed by Shane Black. And I don't know if it's just me that I can't notice good direction or good writing, but in my personal opinion, I thought the writing in this movie was pretty decent, but it had some really, really cringe moments, a couple of unnecessary plot lines, and just weird choices that they made with plot points and some certain characters that I was not a huge fan of. The Mandarin twist is obviously not good, but I don't hate it as much as some people. It was definitely still jarring though. It's just overall a film that as a whole package is, to me, incredibly mediocre and one that really doesn't stand out at all, even in its own franchise. Coming in at number 5, I have AntMan. Now, this is one that you could really interchange this with Iron Man 3 depending on the day and how I'm feeling, but this is just a very, very bland and pretty uninteresting Marvel movie. I think, believe it or not, these are my 2 bottom films in the MCU ranking for me so far, just simply because of how boring and bland and uninteresting they are. Like, I don't really see much, character work in them at all, and that's a huge part of the MCU. A huge part is not necessarily the filmmaking of it, they're not out here to wow you with their beautiful cinematography or anything like that. They're very character-driven movies that are very entertaining and fun, which Ant-Man is very entertaining and fun, I will give it that, but overall the style of this film is very bland, and it's just a pretty uninteresting and very, very forgettable movie in the MCU, so it comes in at number 5. Coming in at number 4, controversially, is the Avengers Age of Ultron. This is easily, out of the 2 Avengers films that I've rewatched, this is easily my least favorite. It is just very boring, way too long. It is way too long. There's a few unnecessary plot lines that definitely don't really have any merit or any real, purpose to them. This is a film definitely drags, as I said, way too long. The runtime is definitely noticeable, especially throughout the first half of the movie where things move very, very slowly. Not a big fan of that. I do like how it introduces Wanda because she is definitely a great character, maybe not amazing in this movie yet, but she's introduced in this and she's good enough. She does her job. I think her introduction is pretty fine here. Overall, though, I think this movie really tries to capture the essence of the original Avengers movie, but feels like it's trying to accomplish too much on top of that. While the Avengers was, like a whole world, like the scale was really massive, this is like the whole world was at stake in that final battle, but something about it taking place just in one city with, everything was somewhat grounded, I guess. This is just like totally wacky. The third act is like, the whole thing is based on like they put some huge like engine thing that would like propel the city into the sky high enough, and then they would drop it and it would be like destroy the earth. It was a really stupid concept for what the villain's plan was. I think Ultron was not a bad villain for sure. He was definitely a pretty good villain, but it just overall they made some really stupid decisions on top of some pretty bad pacing, and just a lot of it being much worse and less charming than the original made me think of this as a very forgettable and pretty boring movie for the most part. Coming in at number 3, I have Thor: The Dark World. I don't think any of you guys were seeing Thor: The Dark World being in the top 3 anything of all time, but here we are. It is my third favorite movie of the MCU Phase 2. I think this movie is way overhated. I mean way overhated. I don't think there's anything in this movie that's particularly abhorrent or just terrible. There's absolutely nothing in this movie that at any point during watching I thought, this is absolutely terrible, this is one of the worst movies I've ever seen. Because that is how a lot of people act when they're talking about this movie or when they're reviewing it. They're saying like this is the movie that ruined movies for them or anything. And it's just absolutely beyond me. I don't really understand why. I don't think, as I said, there's nothing terrible about this movie. There's quite a good few things that are pretty mediocre about this movie, but it has pretty high highs. Like, its high points are very entertaining. They have some pretty good character work. The villain is, as you guys know, is not great, but again, he's not terrible. I loved Loki in this. Loki was amazing in this. I loved the character development that it provides. The visuals are actually pretty good. I think they're one of the more underrated films visually in the MCU. And just overall, it's a movie that I was very entertained by. I hadn't seen this in a very long time, and I think when I first watched it, I was just going along with the crowd because I actually really enjoyed this movie. Coming in at number 2, I have Captain America: The Winter Soldier. This is the one that you would see at the top of a lot of people's lists, and rightfully so. This is definitely close to the top for me. It is an amazing movie. Maybe the best made film in the MCU, at least that I've seen so far. The direction from the Russos are surprisingly good. I don't see them as particularly amazing directors, but they had very good direction in this film. I love the action, obviously, is definitely the best in the MCU that I've seen so far. It is very realistic. I love the hand-to-hand combat, the shaky cam stuff. It's not so shaky that you just can't see anything, but it's shaky enough to where it's realistic and makes it feel like it's actually like someone holding the camera, if you know what I mean. And overall, I think the story of this film is very intriguing and very immersive. It's something that gets you very invested into the story because of, obviously, you don't know who Captain can trust, you don't know who you can trust in the film. And it's basically a film that is honestly made me very paranoid watching because that's how Cap was feeling. And it was very well done because I don't think I've ever felt that kind of trapped watching an MCU movie. It made me feel stuff that I haven't really felt watching a Marvel movie before, which really was surprising to me. This was one that I didn't love before, but now that I have a passion for filmmaking and film, I can see the merit behind this film, and I totally understand why it is so beloved, and it is my number 2 film from the MCU Phase 2. But coming in at number 1, I have the Guardians of the Galaxy. I mean, this is just an amazing movie. I absolutely love this film. James Gunn does an amazing job directing, and the dialogue and everything in this movie is completely wacky, so over the top, and absolutely hilarious and stupid. I don't even care how stupid this movie is because it's hilarious. It is so entertaining throughout the entire runtime, and the story is actually a good story. The villain is not amazing, but I love how it connects to Thanos, and we get to see some Thanos in this movie. That was really cool. It has some great characters that obviously we have all grown to love, the Guardians of the Galaxy crew, and yeah, this is just overall a film that honestly I would say Captain America the Winter Soldier is probably a better movie and probably deserves to be in this number 1 spot in terms of how good of a movie it is. But in terms of pure enjoyment, which for the most part this is why I watch Marvel movies, pure enjoyment wise, in comedy and entertainment, Guardians of the Galaxy pretty easily my number 1 spot. And that was my MCU Phase 2 ranking. If you agreed with any of my picks, definitely let me know down in the comment section, and if you enjoyed the video, definitely leave a like on the video and subscribe to my channel. Again, you can unsubscribe at any time if you want. I will be coming out with my MCU Phase 3 ranking in the future sometime pretty soon, so definitely be on the lookout for that one. But yeah, that is basically it for this video, guys, and I will see you all in the next one.
I can't see a damn thing if it ain't guap. I can't see a damn thing if it ain't guap. They like Steve, they can't see me.